Welcome back. In the wake of the Paris terrorist attack, some GOP candidates taking major heat for their stance on Syrian refugees, some of them floating the idea that the U.S. should give preference to Christians over Muslims. President Obama calls that idea shameful. And according to a new Fox poll, a solid majority of voters agree with him. Let's bring in our panel. As you can see, this latest poll numbers. Ed Rollins is with me, former principal White House advisor to President Reagan. He has been a longtime strategist to business and political leaders, and he is a Fox News political analyst. Judith Miller, adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author and journalist and a Fox News contributor. And Mary Kissel, the Wall Street Journal's editorial board member. Good to see everybody. Thanks very much for joining us. Hi. Your thoughts on this past week, Mary Kissel. Let me kick it off with you.
Well, Donald Trump, I think he effectively emotes. He doesn't articulate a strategy, but he does say what a lot of people think, which is that we have eyes. We saw what happened in Paris. We're afraid that it's going to happen here. The polls reflect that.
Yeah, the polls reflect that, but also you have President Obama having been traveling all over the world, Ed Rollins, and when he first made the comment that, you know, he basically, you know, like sort of pushed back at Republicans, it was a political response to an issue that Americans are really afraid of.
The president who's going to be above politics has been probably the most political president I've seen in my 50 years of politics. He totally misses where the country is on this issue. I think at the end of the day, we're all shocked and saddened by the Paris situation, but we also know it could happen here. And I think the concern about the Syrian refugees, and certainly I think we have to have a humanitarian side to this, but at the same time, 26 people were all basically came here and planned 9/11, and 19 of them got in the country and they knocked down 2 towers and tried to knock down the White House.
But they did not come as refugees, Ed. That's the point to remember.
The issue is, how do we basically safeguard that people are coming in here? We have no system, and it's the FBI and the CIA and the Homeland Security cannot at this point in time guarantee who these people are going to be. So you invite them to come in, you bring 10,000 people in this country, knowing full well the Syrians are saying, the terrorists are saying, we want to get America next.
We have a system. It has worked. We've had 2,174 Syrians come into this country since 9/11. Not one of them has been arrested or deported because of terror-related activities. However, I agree with you, Ed. We have to be sure now that ISIS is clearly targeting us and clearly trying to sneak people into the country. We have to be sure that our system is up to the test, and that's why I don't understand.
We can be welcoming of refugees and yet prudent and reasonable about how we vet them. I think that's what Paul Ryan tried to do with his House bill, and I think it's simply unfair to characterize Americans who are rightly worried about their security as somehow bigots. Maria, very briefly, on the Christian issue, Christians are being targeted for genocide right now. This isn't about preferencing Christians over other religious groups. It's about doing what America has always done, which is to give shelter to those who are targets.
Right. No, I don't think we can have a religious test, but what I don't understand why the president just didn't embrace the legislation to tighten the standards and make sure that everyone.
You know why? Because he's trying to use the refugee issue as a political wedge issue against Republicans. We wouldn't have this refugee crisis if the president had gone into Syria, enforced the red line, targeted Assad's airfields, but he didn't. And now we have hundreds of thousands of people fleeing.
That's a great point.
The danger, though, is Trump and Carson are basically saying outrageous things.
Yes,
there's no filter there, and we're going to have to live with this. Jack Keane, and both of your guests today, I think the chairman, Royce and Jack Keane, articulated exactly what the problem is and what we ought to seek as solutions. And Carson and Trump, who are the front of the pack here, have to be very careful what they say.
Well, they both really went specific on the airstrike so far, the fact that we are missing targets because of this political correctness.
We put our handcuffs on we go out and say you can't have civilian casualties. The whole premise, and this goes back to my days in the Reagan administration, we used to talk about we can't have civilian casualties. These people live in these camps, and at the bottom line, you give them warning, we're going to bomb these camps, get out of there.
And there is no excuse for not bombing supply lines and trucks that were carrying oil that finances these operations out of Raqqa. He has not been willing to do this. He must step up and do it now.
I don't understand.
Because he does want to hand this this over to the next
drivers may be civilian drivers is absurd.
Yes, he does.
Anybody that's driving one of those trucks is now part of the enemy force.
This is not Bosnia. I'm sorry, but you're not going to defeat ISIS with an air campaign.
Yes,
we need to give protection to the Kurds. We need to give the Sunnis a reason to ally with us. And we need to dump the nuclear deal with Iran. Why is this president not getting Assad out of power? Because Assad is backed by Iran. The president is giving political leverage to Tehran, to Moscow. He hasn't outlined a strategy to win.
Mary, if you get rid of Assad right now, you will have Damascus go the way of Libya. You will have no government there and no one to do a deal.
This is the reasoning. This is the reasoning of the Democrats all along. We can't go in there because we're only going to make it worse. We've been hearing it for 3 to 4 years now. It gets worse and worse and worse, and now terror is on our doorstep.
We're not going to get rid of Assad as long as Putin is backing him, and
that's right.
Putin has to negotiate that out.
It's not going to